Everybody, Anne Hutchison here, and I hope you've all had an okay week. Today I wanted to share some personal commentary, some personal thoughts, building on the post that Lynn put up on our blog entitled "Are We Living in End Times?" And there's been so much commentary on the internet, on YouTube, about that topic. So Lynn and I have been chatting a little bit about it. And obviously we've been praying for months, really, ever since this pandemic started, even before. Because it is a huge time of change. And I think our approach really so far has been to sit and watch. I think there's a big place for that. Just sit and watch what on earth is going on. That's actually something God said to me. Just watch, and spend time in prayer, personally, asking Jesus what it is he wants us to know at this time. I think many of us would know that the Bible says no one knows the hour, no one knows the day. On the other hand, the Lord doesn't do anything without telling his friends first. And then there's the fact that we all hear in part. So a lot of what God is doing, one person might hear one thing from God, another person might hear another, and we have to put them together. We also have to be discerning in terms of the stuff that's out there on YouTube, and that is something the Lord said to me as well. He said there is a lot of false prophecy, and that's really ramping up at the moment. And so it's quite difficult when you're on YouTube to discern things. I'm quite careful not to watch a lot. I tend to listen to the Lord and connect with other people that I know are listening to him as well, and people I know who have a very close relationship with him, like Lynn, and other friends and ministers, and just sort of be aware we listen in part, and then we connect with other Christians to try and work out what's going on and what our approach is. But I thought it might be some time to share a little bit about what I personally have been hearing in my prayer time, and I have been asking God a lot of questions. My husband says to me that I'm one who asks a lot of questions, and sometimes he tells me in social circles or social situations, can you just calm down on the questions, Anne? Not everybody likes being asked questions. But I know that when it comes to God, he loves being asked questions, and he has said to me, Ask about my strategy, ask about my blueprint, ask what it is I'm doing, ask what it is you need to know. And he tells us things on a need-to-know basis. So, this is my personal stuff from my prayer time, and I thought you might find it interesting and helpful. I want to say that as a Christian, personally, I'm not sitting there thinking about end times. I'm well aware that as a Christian, I'm always meant to be ready. I will always have my belt of truth strapped around my waist, and I will always be spending time with God, and that is the priority in my life. It's above everything else is my time with God, and I will carve it out every day and guard it with my life. And it comes before everything else. It comes before time with my husband even. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. And I think as a Christian, that's what it means to have oil in your lamp, to be at the ready, so that, when things like a pandemic hit or any of the fallout that might come from this pandemic, any economic fallout or whatever, you're in the safest place. You're in the secret place of the Most High, where he is sheltering you with his wings. So I think that's always my approach. So I'm not sitting there thinking end times, but this time is making me spend more time with God to make sure I'm spiritually looked after by him, and I'm able to cope with whatever comes next. So I guess that's where we are. Back in April, I actually got a vision from him, and it was a vision of a big wave coming, And I'm still figuring out what that wave is. I believe it might be the move of God that's happening at the moment, what he is doing. It could be the pandemic, or it could be more stuff to come. The fact is, we are in a crappy time. The Bible has a lot of crappy times. If you read the book of Jeremiah, there's a lot of crappy times that happen in society, where a society goes from being lovely and peaceful and rich and marrying and eating and drinking to being shaken. And that's all part of the human condition, and we're in a time where we're being shaken. It's difficult. Perhaps you could see that as the wave. But what the Lord showed me in this vision was that there are two kinds of Christians. And this wave is going to separate out in a way. Sometimes God does things, allows things so that a separation can occur. And I saw two types of Christians, and one, they were in the form of fish. So the first type were ones who were riding the wave. They were sparkling and gleaming and glittering, and they were like silver sparkly fish, and they were riding on the top of the wave, woohoo, like surfers, like surfing this wave on top. And then there was another kind who were underneath the wave and struggling to breathe, and they were gasping and they were heavy. And the Lord showed me that the difference is, whether you're spending time with him. Are you spending time before him? Even worshipping, are you spending time in worship? Are you spending time in thanksgiving? Are you spending time hunkering with him and enjoying him and spending time before him? And if you do that, you're going to ride the wave. Once the wave has come, you're going to be able to look back and say, okay, I coped with that. I coped with it well. So I think part of what he's saying really is see this thing as an opportunity, and it does have a dividing function in a way, in that it is going to refine people and help them rise up. I think it's going to help them rise up in their faith, in their degree of capability as a spiritual warrior. It's going to do all kinds of things to us. So it is an opportunity. So there's that. And then I also have heard him say on a number of occasions that there's a really strong promise within this time we're in. And it's this: there's a harvest on the other side. There's a harvest on the other side. And so while a lot of what the enemy is doing at the moment is trying to distract us from that harvest, distract us with fear, for example, or distract us with divisiveness, tempting us to all kinds of things, really, don't forget there's a harvest. And this sounds crazy, but I think God always encourages us to dream big. And he's getting me to dream big. I've actually heard him say that people at stadium loads of people, the harvest is going to be so big that stadium loads of people are going to have fear of the Lord, as in holy reverence for the Lord. And one thing he's told me is that at this time, with what is going on in the world, the tide is actually going to turn in favour of his children. Now that's an interesting one. What I hear specifically is that his children who've been battling away, persecuted, having an awful lot of difficulty in terms of just holding on to their faith, have been through some incredibly difficult situations. And obviously you could say that being the only believer in a marriage is that. It is that, with a lot of us are such battlers by now. And if you're new to the journey, you'll become a battler very quickly. So a lot of us are battlers, and I feel what he said is those who've been through really difficult battles and have built the skills to fight these battles are actually going to move into a greater level of enacted authority. And there's the scripture in Luke 10 where Jesus sends the 70 out. And in Luke 10:19 he says, "Behold, I give you the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." And a lot of the stuff we've been doing in the past few years, or for many of you decades, has been about learning about the enemy, learning to fight, becoming strong. But I feel we're actually moving in, or I believe we're moving in to a time where our enacted authority is now going to be more visible. Things are not going to be so difficult for us. His Spirit is going to come and meet us in terms of favour and grace. And many of us are very tired, but I would say just over the horizon, there's something very fresh and new coming. Last night as I slept all night through, whenever I would go into a slightly wakeful moment, I actually felt the presence of God in terms of a very strong sense of the change that He is working in my life and in the church. Just huge amounts of change in a good way. And I feel He's wanting us to know, or I believe, I shouldn't say I feel, I believe, because I record all the things that I seem to hear in my prayer time, and the things He's said. And this has been a theme that's been He's said to me quite a few times now. So and I've talked to friends, other friends who hear from Him, and they're hearing the same thing. So I believe this, that the harvest, this is from Luke 10:2, the harvest truly is great, but the labourers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out labourers into His harvest. So I think we have to make sure that our eyes are on that harvest. That's our job as Christians. That's our job. Once we become functional, viable Christians, once we've kind of, I suppose, come through the worst, hardest moments of the early stages of being in a spiritually unequal marriage, but once we become real battlers, then our job is actually to focus on this harvest. So one of the things that I'm praying about at the moment, or talking to God about, is how can I be ready? Like, how do you want me to prepare my nets to bring in the fish? Or what kind of barn do you want me to prepare, Lord? How do you want me to prepare? One thing He said to me, and this will be interesting, is He's asked me to set up a YouTube channel and record my testimony. Because I've got a testimony of adult conversion, and it's difficult converting as an adult, and share your testimony so that if any unbelievers, are wanting to explore and find out what is true, they have the help. Testimonies always help. So that's one thing He said to me personally. So I think one thing we can pray for or ask Him is, how do you want me to prepare, Lord? How do you want me to prepare for this harvest? Being married to unbelievers, we often don't feel like we're very good at evangelism. But evangelism takes a lot of forms, and I think we're better at it than we realise. We're great at praying, and I think we have a lot more impact than we realise, even if we don't see things on the outside. So, yes, evangelism, what does that look like, Lord, in my life? And I think it's an exciting time. So once again, I just wanted to reiterate, I'm not really thinking about end times. I'm mindful of the book of Revelation. I know what signs to look out for. But I believe that before any of that, what God has in store is actually a harvest. And it might be a harvest that happens in the midst of an intense shaking time, and so be it. But He'll keep us safe. He'll keep us safe. He'll keep us like those sparkling fish who ride the wave. So keep on praying for help in connecting with Him. And of course, a lot of that is Him who does that for us. We just give Him our yes, and maybe give Him our time, give Him our heart and principle. And He does a lot of this for us. He helps us connect with Him and build a relationship with Him. So yeah, just keep on praying, keep on praying, keep on praying, and keep smiling as well. So I hope that's cheered you on. I'll be interested to hear what you think in the comments. And yeah, love you loads. So see you next week. Bye.